Alrighty, welcome back to the nimrodjaune podcast. I'm your host, Jack Adewale, and welcome back. Shout out to all my Apple Podcasts, Spotify listeners, YouTube watchers. Shout out to all of y'all. Thank you for all the support in the most recent videos. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. We've been growing tremendously, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, whatever platform it is. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All the love. Thank you. Even the comments too, whether it's good or it's negative. I appreciate all of them. Thank you. Let's jump right into it. Right. I feel like we need to set a clear boundary between an opinion and hate speech. And I say this because by technicality, hate speech could technically be an opinion because an opinion is a personal held belief that it's not a fact, but it's a personal held belief. So hate speech could be personal held belief. That's a problem with me though, because by describing hate speech as an opinion, you undermine the impact that it could have, right? Take for example, the blackface stereotype that people put on, like the pain with the dark paint, big lips, and all that. That is technically hate speech, but it's also an opinion. You can label it as an opinion, even though it's a very negative stereotype. Because black people can get that dark. That's a fact. I'm very dark. I'm not light at all. Black people have big lips. I'm a proponent of that. Black people have big noses. We have these things. It's just that in the way that it's used and the message it delivers from it. So there's been times where black actors back in the 40s or even earlier than that would paint themselves black and put the black paint and would go to the theater and perform like that and shuck and jive for approval. And these things, there's a very famous actor, I can't remember the name top of my head, but he did this. He made a career out of doing this. Or you have people who dress up for Halloween as blackface. Like there's negative stereotypes or there's negative connotation behind blackface. So by you painting blackface, it gives off or it generalizes all black people. You could say black men to fit this caricature of a loud, obnoxious, just black person whose features are exaggerated, the overly big lips, the exaggerated dark pigment of our skin. It's obnoxious. It's hate speech, but it's technically an opinion. And that's where I think we need to draw the line. And the same thing could be said for the Jezebel stereotype. If you don't know what that is, the Jezebel stereotype was created, I would say, in the 18th century, 19th century. They basically justify white people's sexual deviancy for black women's bodies. That's really all it did. It was made to absolve white people for the fact that they were sexually abusing, and raping black women. And you have stereotypes like the Sambo, which is a lousy, docile black man who is nothing. He just does nothing. He's just lazy. He doesn't do anything. And who is submissive to the female stereotype of sapphire stereotype, which is a headstrong woman who takes nothing, to the no nonsense woman who would emasculate her husband by putting him down because he's docile and because of this. And white people have found this stereotype comedic. There's a show about the sapphire, actually. It's inspired by a show that went on to have 4,000 episodes before it was canceled because of the negative racial, I guess, connotation it had. All of these stereotypes, by technicality, have some truth in it. The stereotype is a blown out of proportion truth. So there are people who match these stereotypes, people who have round lips, who are that dark, who act in that sort of way, women who act that way. It's a truth that some people act that way. The problem is when you start to generalize it, which stereotypes are used to. Stereotypes are used to generalize by saying, because you see one person do it, yeah, they all act like this. So the savage was used to try and justify slavery. Try to use to justify slavery and segregation by saying, look at them, the savages. They don't have no mind of their own. They don't know what they're doing. They're mindless. Same thing with Drapetomania. If you don't know what that is, I'm pretty sure. What's his name again? I can't remember the guy's name. But Drapetomania was a pseudoscience or a racial science that was created to try and justify slavery and said that black people who ran away from slavery were mad and slavery is a good thing because black people cannot handle themselves. These are technically opinions, but they're hate speech. And we need to we need to draw a very fine line between them. Because I understand an opinion is not going to be received the best way. An opinion can sometimes be violent. In the case of not like it's going to cause physical harm, but it's going to cause a visceral reaction for somebody not to agree with you. Not every opinion you have, somebody's going to agree with you. And I understand that. But I think opinion has this gray area where you can have a personal belief that isn't necessarily grand in any way. It's probably mundane, but you can also have something that's very obnoxious and obviously discriminatory, but mask it as an opinion. And if we allow hate speech to be charted to be carted off as an opinion, then we can let, I would say, Nazism become an opinion. And that is the epitome of that can never be an opinion. There's branches of people who listen to that ideology and taken it, but there's no possible way Nazism can be an opinion. No. That is, by definition, hate speech 101. That is the clear indicator between when someone takes an opinion and becomes so emotional about it, they cause harm. And I think this is more prevalent on the internet, where you can masquerade everything as, oh, it's just a joke, or it's an opinion, or he's getting crucified over an opinion. And I think Sneeko saw this. I think the best example of this is when Sneeko saw the audience that he would spew his message to. And he saw literal kids walking up to him, saying on camera, and fuck the woman. And his face was hilarious, but it was shocking to me that he didn't realize his audience. And he didn't realize that I'm borderline spewing a bunch of rhetoric that I won't say it's hate speech, but I I wouldn't put it past it. Because if you are going on platforms and saying all women are hoes, thoughts, and if you're rich, they only want you for your money, and you're hanging around people who proliferate this same ideology, and we all know that the internet is hoarded by a bunch of small idiot children, it's more likely than not your audience is going to be children. I've had on my email, it says I was born in 1997. I was born 2007. So when I got on YouTube, YouTube thought I was an adult. So they never age restricted me on nothing. I was 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old watching content that 11 and 12 years shouldn't be doing. I was playing GTA at 11, 12 years old. I shouldn't have been playing those games. I was way too young. But I'm very happy I played those games because they brought me a lot of joy. But that comes with knowing your audience. That comes with having an understanding of, yeah, it's either I'm going to censor this content to be specifically for 18 and up, or I'm going to just ignore it and just make the content. Because in that case, once you make that content, you chose the latter option, you cannot get mad that your audience, or you cannot be shocked when you see the audience that you have attracted. Because again, going back on Sneeko, he was in the red pill space for ages. I don't know if he's out. I have no personal idea. But from the last thing I saw of him, he was deeply entrenched in that culture of red pill, fuck women, get money. Let me tell you how to treat these hoes, right? That sphere with the Myron Gaines and Fit, Fresher Fit, and Andrew Tate, and all those people, right? He was deeply entrenched with them. So, and Andrew Tate audience is children. Fresher Fit's main audience, children. It may not have been targeted for them, but you have young boys who have no real experience in the world, trapped inside all day. It, it, it's inane to think that, or silly to think that that's not going to come about, that you're not going to develop that audience. That's why there needs to be a clear separator between hate speech and opinion, because at such a young age, you can't tell the difference between the two. I, at the age when I was starting to hear the red pill ideology, I didn't understand the difference between an opinion and hate speech. I thought it was the same thing. That's why I never gravitated toward it, but I never batted an eye to it. Some of the stuff they say, unless it was like some wild shit, like when Myron dressed up as the when he put the KKK mask on and did some other wild shit. I was like, okay, that's that's something different. Or him saying, "Oh, I don't date Shaniquas," or that form of that speech. I was like, okay, yeah, this is this isn't an opinion no more. This is something different. But again, that's the gray area in opinions. You can technically mask it as one because it is a personal held belief. And nobody can really take it from, nobody can really forcefully make you switch that opinion. I just believe it shouldn't be called an opinion. I think we need a stricter word of opinion. I think we need a stricter definition of opinion before we can allow people to get what they want off, because there are still widely held truths that should be facts that are not facts because we cannot all agree on it. Like rape, sexual assault, or any predatory behavior in general should be something that we could all agree on that is bad. But but just from pure statistics, we know that is not true. So people do not subscribe to this ideology. I remember I saw a video, it was recent too, of a guy. His approach was to try to tell women to hide when they're hurt better, because guys can see that they're hurt and will prey on the fact that they're hurt because they know that they're more likely to give their pussy up to the guy who's showing them affection because they're hurt. And nobody saw a problem with this. Well, not nobody saw a problem with this, but most guys was like, that's just the game. I'm not here to question nobody's life. I'm not here to tell nobody how to live their life. But if that's your game, good on you. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I'm not here to tell you how to to write your life. It's your life. You're the author of it. I can't tell you what to do. But there needs to be a clear distinction between the two. That's all I'm trying to get at. mm, yeah, I think I'm done. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.